Hello, it's time for another driver's debrief vlog for yesterday, Tuesday, the 23rd of Jan. Obviously, if I'd have kept my test date, then this time next week would be my test, but that has moved to 11th of March now, which is the next available slot. We got to get more mock tests done. Yesterday wasn't a mock test. We did do a new road, though, that I hadn't been on, but we started by going up into Launceston, and the focus was on roundabouts, and now I've got to fucking remember. Oh yeah, it was rain and fog, so that's the conditions, not very good conditions. It was a bit of an awkward drive, not as good as last time. So there was lots of puddles to avoid on the way to Launceston. We drove up Launceston almost the exact same way, except at the bridge next to the Ambrosia factory we didn't do that. We turned left and went through like the rich outskirts of, is it Lifton or Lewdown? I think it's Lifton, and there's a part of it called Lifton Down. I'm not sure why. Is there a down there? So we drove through that. It's kind of a lower speed, more residential lane, that, when you go away from the Ambrosia factory. There's a weird junction that leads into it, in which you have to signal left very late to enter the junction because there's two lefts right next to each other. And if there's no car there, you can signal left early on the approach, and you've got to do it in second gear or something to pull in slowly. If there's a car there, then you have to indicate, like right when you're passing the first left, that you're not going down right at the car that's coming out, so as not to confuse people that you're not going in that first left where the car is. I guess because they could pull out in front of you. Yeah, they could pull out in front of you if they assume you're going down the road they're coming out of, and that would be bad because you're going right in front of them to the next road, which is just starting beside them. So yeah, I can understand how you would need a signal there very late, I guess. But it is sort of straight ahead. I guess if you didn't indicate left, people would assume you're taking the slow bend to the right. But it is a bend, so you're essentially going straight ahead. That would be less dangerous, I think, if you turned off there without a signal. Obviously, you're meant to signal, though. I'm going to try and get my head around the ways in which that way could be dangerous. I know the first way, if you don't signal, could be dangerous, the one I explained, but if you were just going around the bend to the bridge and instead you came off, how dangerous would that be in comparison? I want to get my head around. Anyway, we went through there, through this rich residential part of Lifton Down. There were a couple of horse riders, there's a couple of tight passes, a lot of pedestrians seem to be around there for some reason, every time. And there is a like humpback bridge. I'm not sure if it goes over the Tamar or what, but there's a weird humpback bridge there, and once you go over the humpback bridge, you don't give way at the end of it, but you have to check left, because there's a bloody mansion there, like a mansion exit, but you have to check left. Apparently lots of drivers fail there, not because they don't give way at the lines, but just because they don't like to look over their left shoulder as they turn right, because of that mansion entrance. So then, yeah, that takes you up to the actual Lifton on the main road, near there's kind of a crescent bay surrounded by houses, and there's like a yellow painted Georgian house in the middle of them. That always stands out to me. It's easy to accidentally speed there. It's a 30 zone. You go uphill. Tony wants me to select fourth gear, and at that point it's very easy to speed there, like accidentally go over 30 by a couple of miles per hour before the national kicks in, which is before the slip road. Instead of taking the slip road this time, we kind of just went straight on, and it takes you into Launceston just without going on the dual carriageway, which it isn't actually that far, so you don't need the dual carriageway to get into Launceston. You just come into it at a different point, basically. Then I don't have my maps in front of me, so I can't check the route went into Launceston, but we eventually ended up at the double mini roundabouts in Launceston, and I have a struggle keeping very left when I enter onto those double roundabouts. You have to go so left you think you're going to hit the curb, and every time I think I'm going even more left, Tony's like, no, go even more left than that, and I'm like, what the hell, are we not just on the curb now or about to smash into it? and he says there was like that distance, and he wanted it like that distance or something. And it's a double mini, so it's hard to check. Like there's a dividing line between the two roundabouts. The two roundabouts are like two frog spawn bubbles just stuck onto each other, and where that terminates between the two frog spawn bubbles, like the membrane there, is a giveaway line, and there's just not enough time to think about that giveaway line or stop at it, so it's really tricky to work out where the hell you're meant to be looking to do this quick turn. Anyway, I went up there, and it's quite tight up there. This was the sort of place I went the first time I was in Launceston, except this time I did it wrong, because there's a weird section. You go up the top of the hill after leaving that, you're heading into Launceston Centre, past there's some giant car parks on your right for the town. So you go up this hill, then the road starts as a two-way road, then it becomes a one-way road for the shortest stretch ever, then it becomes a two-way road, then you go downhill past the car parking entrance, and then there's a chicane which made me think it was a one-way road, but it was still a two-way road, and then it widens out after the chicane, so it's still a two-way road. Like, after the chicane you're not like single filing to get through the chicane or giving priority, so you have to remember right off the chicane there's a very short stretch where it's a two-way road still, and if you're turning right you need to tuck into the left because cars can still come down to the right of you. And I don't know what was wrong with me that time. I think it's because I wasn't sure whether it goes two-way, one-way, two-way, chicane, which is like a one-way, two-way immediate junction, and that is so confusing. So I don't know what was wrong with me. I went past the chicane and I was always justified to the right, as if it was still a one-way road. And he went, no, wrong, we'll go around. So we went around, did the double roundabouts again from a different angle, which is easier, but there's still the giveaway line in between them. I think you're only looking one direction though, or maybe you're only using one of the roundabouts. I'm not sure. I think maybe you're actually using one of the frog spawn roundabouts at that point. Frog spawn roundabouts. That takes you up to where we were again, going up that hill to that one-way, two-way system, and then I got it wrong again for some reason because the one-way, two-way was confusing me, and then I worked out what the hell I was doing, and we went around a third time, and I got it right. I was like, Jesus Christ. Then we did some major roundabouts. I think I mostly did them all right, except at one particular roundabout, which is I think the Scarn roundabout thing. I was meant to count 3 exits and then leave, but the third exit didn't look like an exit because it was so narrow. It looked like one of those entrance roads onto the roundabout, and I didn't want to drive into an entrance road, so I was like, 1, 2, is that 3? Wait, is that 3? And we're like going past it, and he tucked us in, and then we did a debrief on that one. So that's like some exits for the roundabout appear like entrances, and I was meant to be at that point indicating left to leave, positioning left to leave and all that. But I was looking at that road and thinking, there's no way that's my exit. But it was. We were going to drive to the test centre so I could see what it looked like, but at the turning through town to get to the test centre, he was like, we could either do the test centre or the red brick building. And I was like, test centre? Maybe we should... Oh, wait a minute, what's the red brick building? I don't know what this red brick building is. And he went like, have you forgotten the red brick building? We'll go there then. So we kept going into town, and the thing he describes as a red brick building, I am very familiar with. It's just I call it the snake bend or the tuning fork. And there's this hidden red brick building which doesn't stand out very much, and it's approaching the tuning fork from downhill to uphill, and there's a tiny little central reservation. Is that one. So I have to remember that when I say tuning fork snake bend, he says red brick building. It's just like a landmark and preference of words thing. So we could have gone to the test centre at that point. And I was like, damn. And he parked us up somewhere, and he said, I can show you a video of the test centre so you can see what it's like when you're driving out of it. So I got to see this. It's like this little provincial barn, the test centre, except it's not the building I thought it was. He showed me on the video it's like a secret building behind that one, where there's a tiny car park. Like, from the road it looks like there's a big barn thing and a big car park, and I thought that was the test centre. But it's just like this narrow road goes to one of them big spherical mirrors. You know, the convex... am I saying that right? It's not concave. Convex mirrors that help you see around corners. And then a sharp corner into this secret car park where there's a tiny building. And apparently sometimes they get you to do little manoeuvres in the car park before you get going. And you will be doing some sort of reversing manoeuvre to get into the car park in view of them. And I was like, do you reckon because they can see through the window at you that if you don't park right before your test begins, that they'll try and count that in the test and fail you? And he's like, maybe they'll think you don't know what you're doing or something. But yeah, I don't know if whether that would count against you on the test, because it'd be before the test begins, sort of thing. But they'd still see it. So you have to park in there, reverse into a bay, and then you're set to go. You have to walk into the left door of the test centre where there's like a tea room. No toilets, by the way. For some reason they didn't think to put toilets into a driving test centre. And then you meet with the instructor and he asks you some odd questions, and then you get in the car with the examiner, not Tony, the instructor, and he goes off for a walk or something. I don't think he said he's not the sort of instructor who'd sit in the car with the examiner as they're doing a test, but some of them do. So Tony would go off somewhere and you begin the test, and then you'd have to look in that convex mirror very carefully before you go out, and position left and sort of give way while you're looking in the mirror to see if there's anything coming, because there's like a long, narrow, only fit one car road just outside that mirror that jinks to the right. And then you come out there and meet up the main road, basically. So, other things that happened, there was a scary moment where we were driving up this main 60 road, and there was this tractor thing with its big machine cutting the hedge on the other side of the road, and a big pile-up of traffic seemed to be behind this tractor waiting to overtake it. But one foolish van was just overtaking it as soon as we got there. So we were almost at the tractor, and one bloody van just decided to overtake at that point where it was like impossible to overtake if we'd been going the same speed. We were that close. And Tony was like, oh, that's fucking dangerous. Like, what the fuck's he doing? And he took the wheel and slowed me down and everything. And I don't know what I would have done in that circumstance. I would have thought, I'm going to either beat my horn and slow down, go first gear, slow down almost to a stop on this National 60 road, which is terrible. And the thing I wouldn't have thought about is that the car behind would go in the back of me unless they could see also this crazy overtaker. Then they'd slow down and wouldn't go in the back of me. But then what about the car behind, you know? And the car behind, one of them might have a pile-up and hit the back of each other. It's like a domino ripple effect that could go on behind you if you have to brake that hard for something in front. And sometimes the person behind you might not be paying attention to the crazy overtaking mistake in front of you, and then they just go in the back of you. So it's... I guess you need to slow right down just enough for the crazy overtaker to get in front of you, but still be rolling forward. Steer a little bit left, just steer as much left as you can, and check your mirror. You gotta have been checking your mirrors a long time before that to check the guy behind you wasn't a tailgater. So you gotta kind of suppress tailgaters all the time when you're on those 60 roads. You gotta figure out a way. I think it's normally just going slow, letting them overtake if they need to, sort of thing. But if you speed up, they'll just speed up with you and tailgate you again, unless it's like this, you're at the speed of the road or something like that. Anyway, that was a scary moment because it could have hit us. I can't think too much of other things that happened that day other than when we drove back a new route that I'd never done before. We went on a road past the test centre out of Launceston, and it eventually took us through a place called Milton Abbot, a little village which I'd never been in before. So I got to see Milton Abbot for the first time. There wasn't any nasty surprises there or anything. It was all plain sailing. And then he said if we kept going down that road through Milton Abbot, it would eventually lead to the road that joins up Tavistock at Tavistock Hospital, which I believe is called the New Launceston Road. And there's another road in Tavistock called the Old Launceston Road. I don't know where that goes. I assume Launceston via a more convoluted route. But yeah, we turned off before heading to Tavistock, and that joined on to one of the roads that we were familiar with going down past like the gliding club and stuff, which you access via a weird junction where it's like you're coming up a road like that and you're trying to access a road that's like flat on top like that, like a 7 shape. You're coming up the 7 up to the corner, but you're turning right, you're not turning off the corner of the 7, you're turning up the top of the 7 sort of thing. And you could go right to the corner of this 7 shape and turn in, but it's a little bit difficult turning your car to face that way. But there's a little in-between bit of the 7 that joins. Like when people draw an angle sign, like for protractors, you know, if someone was to draw a 45-degree diagram, they put that little corner thing on. The road was like that. There was a second road for turning right. But the problem with that is it's such a short road. It's a short road that joins just before the corner. And if traffic was coming the other way to join that from the right, to join that on your right and go past you on your right. If it was like a lorry or something, they wouldn't be able to fit past you. So you have a choice of a good wide road with a very angular turn right, or a little mini tiny, I won't call it a slip road, but a little tiny cut the corner road where it's quite narrow and there's a risk that you'll get stuck with another car coming in. So that was interesting after Milton Abbott. Oh yeah, when we left the road at Milton Abbott, it was like some petrol station with a brand name I'd never seen before, like Merco or something. That was the road that leaves Milton Abbott and joins onto our familiar road that we took back to get home. So that was an interesting if awkward adventure in the foggy rain, learning more roundabouts. And I think next time we're going to go to the Hellmouth town and do a bunch of manoeuvres so I can get a refresh on forward bay parking and backward bay parking mainly. There was one other thing that we did in Launceston, which was we did a parallel park, and I forgot one part of the parallel park because I got to the point where I was overconfident. I was like, parallel park is easy now, I know what to do. But he said, oh, we need to park in somewhere on the left. How about we parallel park in front of that silver van? So I went up beside the silver van, got to its back end, stopped the car, checked all around, put it in reverse. All good so far. Reversed, and then I didn't know when to apply the single 360 turn left, because I forgot that the first thing you may do is look out the back window for the bonnet, and I was looking out for some reason, looking out for the bonnet of the van outside the wing mirror, and that's the second part of the action. You put it in reverse when you're beside the van, you come back and you're meant to look for the van outside your blind spot window, and I completely forgot that part. Then you're meant to do the 360 turn, which is not a full turn. Then you're meant to go back until you see the bonnet outside your wing mirror, which is the first thing I did. So I did that wrong. We managed to get in, parked and everything, but only because Tony prompted me that I'd missed the turning point. But we got back on track. We seemed to be quite close to the curb though, and a bit too close to a black vehicle behind. But apart from that, we were straight and everything. We were parallel parked successfully, but I forgot the turning point. So I need to memorise, when you're doing a parallel park, you're not looking for a bonnet or anything out your side window wing mirror. You've got to look out your blind spot mirror first. Anyway, that's all we did today. I wanted to get to a point where we were back doing lessons twice a week, but Tony's got no slots for that at the moment. He keeps promising me one, but not getting one. So it's going to be a full week again until my next lesson, unfortunately, which takes place when I would have had my test on the 30th, which is frustratingly now moved to 1 month and a bit later. So that gives me a bunch more weeks, especially if we're still doing one lesson a week. And I've had to buy a new block of 10 hours, because it works out cheaper if you buy a block of 10 hours, which is a block of 5 lessons in one go, than it does buying individual lessons. So unfortunately, I'm doing that again. That's the problem with leaving the test till later. But I guess I'm not 100% ready yet. I'm a lot better than I was, and I'm enjoying it more because I'm a lot better than I was when I go out for a drive. And sometimes it helps to de-stress me. It's quite nice. Not this recent time, but the previous lesson before that, it helped to de-stress me with things going on in the day, which was surprising. I think it's just because nothing went wrong during the drive to pile up the problems. It was more like something refreshing and different to what had been going on, sort of thing. Anyway, catch you all later, folks.
Hi! Is everything okay?
I'm sorry, sir, but you need to get back to your car.
Anybody hurt?
A couple of injuries, but nothing serious.
Sit down!